Yesterday we did the East. Now it's time to tier the Western Conference, where the Lakers' value moves this offseason enough to put them into the contender tier. Should Russell Westbrook be the latest player to go back to where it all started? Will Anthony Edwards be a top 5 player this season? And is LeBron James creating a LIV-like rival league to the NBA? Matt and Haize have all the answers today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He is a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
82 days until the NBA regular season begins.
82 games in a season, 82 games until that season begins. I cannot wait. And until then, we're joined from the Locked On Bulls podcast. He's also a Bears and Bulls content creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize. Haize.
I made the decision. I haven't even told Doug this. I made the decision that I'm going to go to a Hornets game next year, and I'm going to command Doug go with me. There you guys go.
In Charlotte? Or are you just saying Charlotte. You're going to go to a Hornets game in Chicago?
In Charlotte.
I'm going to go to Chicago.
I'm going to pull up on you in Charlotte, and we're going to go to the game together. Why not?
I love that idea. I mean, the food's not as good, but the basketball will be good, I think. But see, the problem is you got rid of Lonzo, right? So there's no ball connection. The fake national TV game that the NBA always rips away from both teams, you can't even have that anymore. So,
have they ever even both been healthy when those games have happened? I don't think.
Well, no, that's why they always get ripped away. It's the fake. We always talk about it. It's a fake national TV game. All right. Let's talk about our Western Conference tiers. Yesterday on the show, we did our Eastern Conference tiers. Now it's time to dig into what Matt and Haize think about the Western Conference. I want to go first to Locked On Lakers because on today's show, they were focused less on tiers and more on ESPN Power Rankings. Let's listen to the Kamenetsky brothers.
ESPN Power Rankings 1 through 10 post-free agency period. Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, Cavs, Knicks, Timberwolves, Clippers, Magic, Warriors, and then at 10, the Lakers. Obviously, that means that the people are expecting the Western Conference to be a hellscape for anybody trying to win a lot of games. But what was your reaction to seeing that, Andy?
My reaction was that could sound just about right, but it also could be the Lakers at 3 and Denver at 7. It could be Minnesota at 2 and Houston at 6. Like, the West is so, I think, going to be just like last year, so bunched up to where the difference between a 3 seed and a 9 seed or even a 10 seed is only going to be a handful of games at most.
Andy goes on to lament summer rankings as meaningless, and he's totally right. Power rankings are meaningless, but tiers are not, and that's what we have for you today. Wonderful, meaningful Western Conference tiers compiled carefully by Matt and Haize. Matt, you have the Lakers in your sub-contenders tier. Haize has them as pretenders. Matt, why is Haize wrong here?
I got Luka Doncic. I still got LeBron James. Like, it's enough, man. Remember that this team finished 3rd in the Western Conference last season. Like, this team was good last season, despite having injury issues, despite having a kind of flawed roster, despite the age, despite all of the things that happened. They had that disastrous kind of stretch after the Luka trade where everybody got hurt. They still wound up 3rd in the Western Conference. And I don't know how meaningful Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton are going to be as additions. I would have rather they had done different things and adding to this team, but I don't know how you can look at a team with this much top end talent with the potential fit on them and really dismiss them as contenders. They were contenders last year. They're contenders this year. The Lakers are contenders.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see them as contenders. I think they could be a damn good team in the Western Conference. They won 50 games last season, but let's be clear, there were 6 teams, I think, in the West, 5 teams that won 50 games last year, and then another 3 that won 48 or 49 games. And teams have gotten better. It's not that I don't think the Lakers are going to be a good team. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games. But to be a contender in my eyes, you have to be head and shoulders above a lot of teams in the West, and I don't see them head and shoulders. They're right in that mix of teams that are going to win around 50 to 52 games next year, with the Rockets and the Thunder being that much ahead of them. I don't see the Lakers making it past either the Rockets or the Thunder to really get to a finals. And depending on how some of these other teams like the Denver Nuggets play and with their new acquisitions, and always the Minnesota Timberwolves, I just don't have them in the list of true contenders in my book. But then again, my tier of contenders aren't very many teams in the West either. I think they're going to be a lot of really, really good teams in the West. And depending on how matchups shake out, maybe you get a surprise there. But, I don't have the Lakers there. I think they're going to be really good, but I don't see them as a title team, not yet.
I might feel differently just because Luka bends the Thunder defense so specifically. Like that, the Thunder do not want to see Luka. Like he specifically gives their entire defensive scheme problems. And we saw that in the 2024 playoffs when the Mavericks upset the Thunder. And like that Mavericks team wasn't, light years beyond this Lakers roster either. And then if you go, like you went to Houston, carts before the horse a little bit here, bud. Like they couldn't get past the Warriors. They still got a lot of inexperience. Mm-hmm. KD's great, but let's look at the history of KD's performances in the playoffs really over the last half decade. I think you got to peel back a little bit on the Rockets. There is this. I got a hot take. I don't know that the West is that tough. I really don't. I think it's a lot of stuff that's actually a little bit paper thin, and I think that we just make it out to be this gauntlet now. I don't know that how many of these teams are truly great except OKC.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the Lakers, one of the things that they're thin at is in the front line. That's where the Thunder are deep at. And I think also look at this. I know what Luka did against the Thunder. I'm not taking away from that. Go and look at the possessions that Alex Caruso's guarded Luka Doncic. There may be a reason why they may feel a little bit more confident now that Alex Caruso's on that team.
That's fair, but you also got to remember that he won't be able to just suplex people because it's the Lakers. So that's true. That won't be allowed. And if he actually has to play actual defense, I'm not sure Alex Caruso is as good as his reputation.
Oh. All right, so you have, Matt, you have as your super contenders the Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets. Haize, you agree with those 3 teams. You also throw the Wolves into your contenders list. We'll get to that in a moment, but you also disagree about the Golden State Warriors. Matt, you have them in a category called We Believe, We Should Not Believe, and you have them, Haize, as could be contenders in your could be contender tier with the Los Angeles Clippers. So, Haize, why should Matt believe in the Warriors next season?
I think there's something about just that, not only the coaching, as long as you have Steve Kerr, Steph, and Dre, that team is already at a certain level. And I think had Steph not went down, I think they could have gone a lot further than what they did last year. I think having an offseason of Jimmy, Dre, and Steph to work and Steve Kerr to come up with even more, as far as schematically there. Now, I'll be clear. There still is a huge question mark on how they fill out the rest of the roster after whatever happens to Jonathan Kuminga. That's why I put them in the could be contenders, because depending on that and how they look during the regular season, how healthy they are, I could see them turning into contenders at some point.
If they get Malik Monk in a Kuminga trade, then I'll feel a lot better about them. If they do the Suns trade and they get they get a few more guys, I'll probably feel better about them. But look, Steph is up there in age. He's 36, going to be 36 this season. Jimmy is ancient at this point. He's got so many miles on him. Draymond's got a lot of miles on him. And then you look at the rest of this roster. It's like Brandon Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, who I like a lot, Moses Moody, who I like a lot, Quentin Post, Buddy Hield, Luis Santos. There's just not enough here, man. There's just not enough here for me to really buy in. I get the top heavy thing is great. How many big threes have we seen fail? You need depth. What have we been constantly talking about over the last 6 months? You need depth and youth. And the Warriors are like, but what if we were old and thin? And I just can't get there on them.
Now, what does Malik Monk do for the Warriors that would get you over that line specifically?
Well, it's like if you take Buddy Hield and then you made him good. And so that for me is like a big separation of being able to create another roster spots, another creator, as another guy that can generate a lot of offense. Because part of it, I think, is like I'm not sure Jimmy's got like a lot. Like I don't know how many 40 balls Jimmy's got left in him, and you need somebody who can go out there and put up a big scoring performance if the defense is just locked in on Steph. And I think they missed that even in the Rockets series where they barely got out of it. I think Malik Monk would help a lot with that.
Haize, do you agree with Andy Kamenetsky on Locked On Lakers that the West is going to be bunched up again? Like you're going to have like one, maybe two teams that separate, let's say Thunder Rockets, and then everything else gets jammed up? Or do you think it's going to be more like 3 or 4 teams separate themselves from everybody else?
I agree. I think it's with the Kamenetsky brothers. I think that it's going to be much like it was last year, where you saw between the 3rd seed all the way down to the 9th seed, there were 2 games that separated. 8 games that separated those teams. So I think that you could see something very similar in this one. And while people say March basketball doesn't matter, there's going to be a lot of teams jockeying for position in March. I think in February and March heading into the playoffs next season.
I think you're going to see 2 of 3 of Rockets, Nuggets, Thunder at the top, along with one surprise team. And then I think we're actually going to see a drop off a little bit into sub 50 for the rest of the conference.
And I wonder if some of that has to do with some of those bottom tier teams that are, because it's so amazing to me how many teams have committed to competing in the Western Conference. And I think they could sort of snipe, the Blazers and the Suns of the world could snipe some of those bottom half Western Conference teams. Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Coming up, we will stick with the tiers because Haize, he has the Minnesota Timberwolves firmly in his contender slot. Matt does not. We'll find out why. Plus, later on in the show, LeBron James reportedly in the works here with a league that could contend with the NBA in the future, a LIV-like league. We'll get to more of that coming up. Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're saving up or planning something big, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. That sounds wonderful. Monarch isn't just a budgeting app. It is a full financial command center. You can track your accounts, your investments, your spending, and even plan for those future goals, all in one clean, easy-to-use app. That means less time stressing about your money. You do enough of that already. And more time making it work for you. And if you share finances with someone like I do, Monarch makes it super easy to stay on the same page without awkward spreadsheets or missed bills. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We are one of the most listened to podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network, and for that, we thank you. We're now on a mission to become the most watched show on the network. If you've been listening for a long time, please support the show by going to YouTube and subscribing. All right, we're continuing to look at the Western Conference tiers between Matt and Haize. I will post the full list, a link to the full list of both their Eastern Conference and Western Conference tiers in the show notes. So if you want to check that out later on. Haize, you have the Wolves firmly in your contender tier. Matt, you're not ready to put them there yet. We'll start with you, Matt. What's holding you back from putting the Wolves in that tier? Right now you have them in the sub-contenders, but not in your super contenders tier.
Yeah, so the idea here is basically like they can win the title, but I don't you cannot have them favored against those teams. I think in the top tier, losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker without any sort of replacement, I think is meaningful. Like Nickeil was really good for them, and so I think not having a replacement option for him, and then the replacement options are going to be unproven guys that are more offensively centric, like Terrence Shannon or Rob Dillingham. So not having those kind of guys, I think, to replace Nickeil actually does matter. Now, look, when I do projections based off of where I've got them numbers wise, I've got the Wolves as the 3rd best team in the Western Conference. They've made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. I can't say they're not contenders, but I have to put them in that sub-contender category because a lot of things went their way and they still topped out in the conference finals and got the absolute stuffing knocked out of them. So I'm going to put them in sub-contenders for right now, but I do think they deserve the recognition of having made the conference finals twice with a roster that is still very much intact.
And me and Matt have a lot of the same reasoning there. I have them in my contenders list because they have made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. And we've seen this happen before where eventually a team just gets over that hump. And that could very well be the Wolves this year. And, I've learned not to count out Anthony Edwards. The last couple of years going into the playoffs, I did not have the Wolves making it as far as what they've done. And I think this pick for me is a little bit of, listen, you're not gonna fool me yet again. I'm not gonna get caught slipping, underestimating the Wolves. And yes, they've lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker and they have missed some things, but they've kept the majority of their core together. And and I think that if things break right for them, I could see them going into the finals this year.
If Anthony Edwards had a stronger performance in the conference finals, had they made it a little bit closer, would that change your opinion, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I thought they had a really good chance to push that series, and they didn't. I thought the coaching, as much as I like Chris Finch as a coach, I love Chris Finch as a coach, I thought he was absolutely in over his head the first 2 games. He was going to small ball lineups with Naz Reid, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're playing right into OKC's hands. If they'd had a better performance in that conference finals, I do feel differently about them. I think the formula is there, but they got to find it. And until you find it, I can't give you credit for doing so yet.
Who's most responsible, Haize, for finding that formula? Is it Anthony Edwards, or do you think that's on Chris Finch's shoulders? Whose responsibility is it to find that extra something that they didn't have last season?
I think it's both. I think it's all of the above. It's both Chris Finch and it's Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards needs to have a better conference finals performance than what he did last year. It was hands down. But I do think we've seen enough from the coaching aspect too that Chris Finch has room for growth there and to be better at balancing out some of the rotations and defensively schematically as well there too. So I'd say it's both of them. 1A, 1B, they both got to be better.
All right, the network is working on our Locked On Top 100 Players list for next season, and Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon revealed his top 5. Let's see if Anthony Edwards shows up.
I have Nikola Jokic number 1. I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander number 2. I don't think much explanation is needed there. I have Giannis Antetokounmpo 3rd. I think that's still the right place to have him. I have Luka Doncic 4th. Those guys could flip. That argument could be made. And I should also say, we're factoring in injuries. So I don't have Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton on my list. This is for this season. Jason Tatum probably would have been 5th on my list. Halliburton would have probably been in the 6 to 8 range on my list. Neither one of them are on my list. Kyrie's on the list, but he's pretty far down. With no Jason Tatum, that means Anthony Edwards is number 5 on my list. He would have been 6 or 7, depending on your Tatum and Halliburton thoughts. But I have Ant at number 5 on my list. I mean, look at the guys he's ahead of. Steph Curry. I think he's better than Steph at this stage. Jalen Brunson maybe could take over games. Not maybe. He can take over games more effectively, I would say, than Anthony Edwards. Right now, Ant is clearly a better defender. The size obviously helps. He's a better volume three-point shooter, and I do think on any given night the upside for what Ant can do is greater.
So I think the injury question is going to put a lot of those names, the Tatums, the Halliburtons, the Dames of the world, it's going to cause their ranking to sort of go all over the place when it comes to how the network views them. But if we take them out of the conversation for the sake of Ben Beacon's list, which he did, do you agree that you have to put Ant in the top 5 over Brunson and Steph, or is that a little bit of Ben Beacon bias showing there, Haize?
No, I can see the conversation and the angle that he's taking on it. I think there's a conversation to be made there. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know. Would I put him over Brunson? Probably not yet, but I do think if he can build off what he did last year, I can see a conversation for that happen. I don't think the conversation and the question is way off basis there. So I don't think it's like home cooking or anything like that. I just think that maybe we're a little bit too ahead of having that conversation quite yet.
Yeah, so for me, it's about how do you impact the game, right? And Ant's not at the level that he's an engine yet. He's not able to shape the game the way some other guys are. And look, I have Victor Wembanyama over him because Victor shapes the game more. Ant's a better player. Victor shapes the game more. He impacts it more with the defense and his Wembiness. I've got Donovan Mitchell over him. Donovan Mitchell was the best player on a team that won 60-plus games in the Eastern Conference. That team was a juggernaut, and Mitchell is awesome. He is such a versatile, complete player, which Ant still is not. Ant was 25th percentile on mid-range shots last season. He was 79th percentile in assist percentage among shooting guards. Good, not top level. He's good. I think there are still levels that Ant's got to get to. If he gets there, then I'll have him higher. But right now, I've got some guys that are injured in this category. Even without those guys, I would still only have Ant 8th in the league. I still think Steph Curry is more impactful.
Matt, follow up. What are some of those things that Anthony Edwards has to show you to get to that level where he can shape a game? A big part of the conversation around him last season was how many 3-point shots he took and how that took him away from the rim. Do you think that that's part of this conversation?
No, to me, instead, it's about he was really frustrated when teams started doubling him and just thought that his teammates should be so good that doesn't ever happen. And it's like, yeah, but you're so good, they're always going to still choose that because they're daring you to make those plays. Like they are not just leveraging how good your teammates are. They're leveraging how good your teammates are versus how good you are at getting the ball to them. And like, he still doesn't trust Rudy Gobert. You see it consistently every single night. Like there's still not a level of trust there until he reaches a level where he's like, I'm going to make the right play. I'm going to make the right read every single time. I'm going to punish you. And I'm going to break you from doubling me so I can dominate one-on-one. Until he gets to that level, the way that every other superstar has to deal with, then no, he hasn't kind of reached that level yet.
Haize, final word.
No, I agree that I think Ant does have another level that he needs to get to be trusted in, and a level of consistency. I think that is coming. I think you saw the leap that he took last year as a facilitator at times and shooter. It's coming, and I would not be surprised if we have this conversation again this time next year, and we are talking about him being in that top 5.
How about a more impactful defender? His steal percentage has trickled down over the past couple of seasons. And if you look at his on-off stats for defense, and, those are complicated stats, but certainly not a positive. If you look at cleaning the glass, 18th percentile in terms of points per possession on defense when he was on the floor versus when he was off, the Wolves were plus 4.1. So that could be a factor as well. Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Coming up, neither of you disagreed about Oklahoma City's place on top of your tier list. But what about a homecoming for Russell Westbrook to Oklahoma City? Let's see if you disagree about that. Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder, he sure had a strong take. We'll get to that. Plus, is LeBron James involved in plans for a LIV-like competitor to the NBA, an international league being started up? We'll talk about that as well on Locked On NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. You both have the Oklahoma City Thunder on top of your Western Conference tiers. Let's see what you think about this. Locked On Thunder did a mailbag segment on their latest podcast, and one listener wondered about something that is all the rage this offseason, homecomings, and if Russell Westbrook could be the latest to go back to where he made it all happen. Let's see what Rylan Stiles thinks.
Russell Westbrook is such a personality that it's like that would create such a unnecessary sideshow whenever the juice is not worth a squeeze. The difference in this team winning is not Russell Westbrook. You can make the argument it'd make the team worse, frankly, if we're just going to be honest about Russ, which is hard to do. I know that in this market, it's the hardest market ever to be realistic about Russ. You can make the argument it makes you worse. The storyline of like, well, whose team is it? And it sounds silly right now, but it was also silly to act like Carmelo Anthony was above coming off the bench. When you get a player of the caliber of Russ, it's just different. The media coverage is different. The emotions are different. I mean, for God's sake, you guys gave him a standing ovation in the playoffs. Like, it would just be a weird dynamic that you cannot, to me, add into this team.
All right, what do you think, Haize? Agree or disagree with Rylan's take there on adding Russell Westbrook into the Oklahoma City fold?
Yeah, basketball wise, it doesn't make it. For story and all that type of stuff, going home, that's great story wise. But for basketball, I don't see why they would have a need for Russell Westbrook. They don't really need a bench creator, which is what he did basically for the Denver Nuggets at points last season. I just don't see it. I don't see the Nuggets as a franchise that would do anything to disrupt the balance that they've built there and the chemistry that they've built there just to bring Russ back home forever, how long it is. I just don't think that's at the state that the franchise is at. I don't think it makes sense for the team, and that needs to be their focus right now. You just won a title. Focus on how you're going to repeat and keep winning titles going forward. At this point, I don't think bringing back Russ makes much sense for them.
Is Russ going to come out for the post-game interview with everybody, being all chummy with the kiddos? Probably not, right? And this is part of the thing is when you reach a level of fame that Russ has, you have an expectation of being treated differently. And there were some tension points with that with the Nuggets last season in terms of like Russ's, like his own kind of ecosystem. And that disrupts things. And OKC's got a very solid ecosystem that they very carefully built. Now that ecosystem will evolve as Shea makes more money and gets more attention, and Jada makes more money and gets more attention, and Chet makes more money and gets more attention. But for right now, I think you want to try and maintain that level of humility and humbleness and the kind of very grounded feeling that OKC has. And you can't do that with Russ. As much as I think Russ brings good things and bad things, I honestly think that the stage is maybe still, even with the NBA champions, a little too small to be able to handle the oxygen that Russ takes up in the room.
Here's an interesting question that I did not have in the rundown, but now this conversation is making me curious about. When you look at the young players, like around 25, maybe younger than 25 years old, young players in the league that are burgeoning stars, do you see another future Russell Westbrook in the making? And what I mean by that is a player that has unquestioned superstar talent, but maybe because of mercurial personality, or maybe because there's something in their game that prohibits them from like hanging on to a team for a very long time. They're going to have to bounce around, and there's always going to be this question of, do they help me more than they hurt me? Is there a player that you can identify? Just shout it out if you know one. Is there a player that you can identify that you think, oh yeah, that guy's got a little bit of future Russ in him? Trae,
I think is one that's probably going to be in that conversation. I think another one to kind of keep an eye out for might be Anthony Edwards, just because like Ant's pretty brash, right? A lot of this is just like, how are you going to adapt to being a role player? And I don't know that I just don't know that Ant's ever going to be in a position to be like a role guy, right? So those would be the two off the top of my head. Ja is obviously, I think, the other one you got to look at.
Yeah, that push-pull of becoming the role player, that was certainly a factor. Haize, any name come to mind for you?
No, I agree with the ones Matt pointed out there. Those are probably the biggest ones. I don't really have another one to add there.
If his career stays on, how about Joel?
Yeah.
Ooh, are we there yet? Or is that where we are, Matt, already?
I mean, like, I'm just asking, like, down the line, like, do you see Joel just being like, yep, just happy to come out here and grab 12 boards and give you 15 points and move on?
But was that a big deal with Russell Westbrook, like injuries? I mean, certainly the
Right.
parts of his game that made him great were easily taken away by age. But were injuries a huge factor in sort of making that conversation more difficult with Russell Westbrook? Or was it more just like, all right, the thing that he did, like dominating in transition, that went away as he got older?
Right. But I mean, I think that's the other question here is just like, if Joel's not Joel, if Joel's just like supposed to be a role player, what does that look like? Would Joel be happy with that? I don't know. The question is just like, what are your guys going to be happy with? I think is kind of the interesting question.
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Moving on, plans are in motion for a new international basketball league spearheaded by LeBron James's business partner, Maverick Carter, and reportedly backed by major sovereign wealth funds, with players being offered equity stakes or potentially being offered equity stakes and being forced to leave the NBA. This new venture is drawing comparisons to LIV Golf's disruption of the PGA Tour several years ago. An Instagram post by Nikola Jokic's agent, who is someone connected to this new league, shows him hanging out with LeBron James and Maverick Carter with the caption, "The summer of 2025 is the perfect time to make big plans for the fall of 2026. Matt, is this new league, if it were to get off the ground, a legitimate LIV-style threat to the NBA's global dominance? And how concerned should Adam Silver be about a figure like LeBron James being involved, even if it's only as an outside investor?"
I think this is, I would be a little concerned here. This is like the end root of player empowerment, right? Of if superstars are what matters, and this is a players' league, and you've told the players that they're this powerful and they're what makes the money, then they start to be like, why do I have to play 82 games? Why do I have to do all this stuff? Why do I have to play back-to-backs? Why do I have to do this? What if this other league doesn't make me do that? I can make all this money and do this. I don't think it's good for fans. I don't think it's good for the sport. I don't think it's good for a lot of things. But I think for superstars, I think they're all going to be very interested in what this new league can offer. Additionally, alarming, I think, for a lot of people is how many international superstars are going to be potentially free agents in 2026 or 2027. And what that means and how those discussions go, I think is going to be a pretty fascinating one down the line. I would be pretty concerned about this.
Yeah, I mean, anything like with LeBron's name on it, you should be concerned because of the gravity that his name takes now. I mean, I think any new league, it'd take a while before they really start cutting into anything drastically with the NBA, but you can't overlook it. And if you do overlook it completely, that is when you sometimes get caught off guard. So they definitely should be concerned. They definitely should be watching and monitoring this. I know they are looking into their expansion out in Europe and stuff like that, but this isn't the big three. This would be a lot more major than that. So you have to take it seriously if you're the NBA.
I mean, look, here's a long-term concern, Haize. If the TV networks are already like the media deals are too expensive and the league is like, we can't cut games because then our value to what we're offering them. If those TV sponsors are there able to go like, well, wait. Great. You've got the history and all these other things, but they've got the superstars because they're paying those top guys more. Why don't I just go get them? What does that do to the league's viability? What does that do to the league's media deal? What does that do to franchise valuations? Like, that's where I start to get very interested in this, which is like, if we've pushed the players above the teams this much, then if the players just go play in another league, that's where the money will follow to. And now you get a problem.
Well, you're talking about top players. I think there's a concern about the middle class of players. We've had a lot of discussions on this show about how the CBA, the second apron, has squeezed a lot of players like, for example, Jonathan Kuminga into, whatever you think he's worth, he has an idea of what he's worth, and he's not happy with the offers that he's getting. Would he be happier with this type of league coming to him and saying, actually, we'll not only give you more than that, we'll also give you equity in the league, but you can't play in the NBA anymore? I think that's an even bigger threat than talking about stealing one top star, is stealing multiple players who are being squeezed out of the middle class.
If Jonathan Kuminga is the big pull, that league's going to fail.
But it's how many Jonathan Kumingas. That's what I'm saying. It's not about one Jonathan Kuminga. It's about Jonathan Kuminga, Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes, all these folks who have been talking about restricted free agency.
Doug, I don't mean to be mean here, but I got a question for you. Does LaMelo Ball belong more in the NBA or in this league?
Well, where he would be more appreciated, certainly, I think, in the other league. I mean, he has to do certain things, change parts of his game to be respected in this league that I don't think he would have to do, at least in the early parts of that league. And that's, I know you maybe made that in half jest on my behalf, but I think you're making a great point, is that they're going, like Cam Thomas is catching a lot of heat, for being a ball hog. And I think there's going to be a league that comes up that says, ball hog away, Mr. Thomas, and we'll pay you double. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're making a great point there.
All right. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Thanks so much to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Until next time, be kind to each other. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.